child abuse, maltreatment, and human trafficking. This training addresses factors indicating a child is at risk for abuse or other maltreatment, likely warning signs, human trafficking, district procedures and techniques for reducing a child's risk, and community resources. The phrase sexual abuse or other maltreatment encompasses abuse, including the acts or omissions of a person which result in emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. Emotional abuse is an action that results in a marked impact on a child's growth, development, or psychological functioning. Emotional abuse includes extreme forms of punishment, like confining a child to a dark closet, or belittling a child to the point that it results in noticeable effects on the child's daily functioning. Physical abuse is a physical injury that results in substantial harm to the child, like bruises or fractures or even death. It also can include a genuine threat of harm even if there is no visible injury. Sexual abuse is sexual conduct harmful to a child's mental, emotional, or physical welfare. This includes fondling a child's genitals, penetration, indecent exposure, and exploitation through prostitution or producing pornography. The Texas Penal Code addresses the definition of consent as it relates to sexual assault. Sexual assault is without consent if an individual, employee, or caregiver causes a person to submit or participate in a sexual act by using influence or power to exploit the other person's dependency. Sexual abuse or other maltreatment also encompasses neglect. This includes neglectful supervision, medical or physical neglect, abandonment or refusal to accept parental responsibility, and failing to protect a child from any of these situations. The existence of any of the factors listed on this slide does not indicate that child abuse or neglect has occurred, only that a child may be at risk for abuse or neglect. The link below this video contains likely warning signs in the case of situations that don't meet the definition of abuse or neglect under the law, but in combination with other factors may indicate a child is being subjected to abuse or neglect. The Texas Family Code defines human trafficking as a form of abuse or neglect. Human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transporting, or procurement of a person for labor or services for the purpose of involuntary servitude, slavery, or forced commercial sex acts. While human trafficking is a global problem, it's also a Texas problem. School-aged children are vulnerable to the manipulation and exploitation tactics of traffickers, and unfortunately, law enforcement has confirmed cases of trafficking occurring on school grounds, at school events, and even carried out by classmates. Traffickers are brutal, and victims are often subjected to serious life-altering manipulation and control through the use of threats of violence, physical and sexual and emotional abuse, and withholding of basic necessities. Many victims continue to attend school, and as such are in contact with school personnel on a regular basis. Because of your role as a district employee, you may be in a position to identify and report human trafficking, which may facilitate a child's rescue by law enforcement. The Family Code and District Legal Policy also addresses adult victims of abuse. Board policy states that we are required to report known or suspected abuse or neglect of adults when we have reasonable cause to believe an adult was a victim of abuse or neglect as a child, and if we determine in good faith that disclosure of the information is necessary to protect the health and safety of another child or an elderly or disabled person. As school district employees, if we have reasonable cause to believe child abuse or neglect has occurred or will occur in the future, and remember this includes sexual abuse, human trafficking, and adult victims of abuse, we are obligated and required by law to report it to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. While all individuals have a duty to immediately report suspected abuse or neglect, the Texas Family Code requires us as school district employees to do so within 48 hours of knowing or suspecting the abuse or neglect. Simply reporting it to our supervisor or a principal does not relieve us of the responsibility to report to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Your failure to report may result in criminal penalties of a Class A misdemeanor. If you're in doubt about making a report, just make the report. The DFPS accepts reports by phone or online and will send you a confirmation of your report. It's in your best interest to document the date you made the report, the login and password you used if reporting online, and the name of the person taking your call if you reported it by phone. Your identity is kept confidential. Intentional false reporting is a state jail felony. However, when reports are made in good faith, you are immune from civil or criminal liability. The number to call is 1-800-252-5400, or you may report electronically to the Texas Abuse Hotline. In addition to the legal requirement to report suspected child abuse or neglect to DFPS, an SAISD employee is also expected to report any concerns related to the health or welfare of a child to a campus counselor or an administrator. An employee who suspects that a student is the victim of abuse or neglect should not attempt to question the student or to conduct their own investigation. If an employee witnesses inappropriate conduct between two students or between a student and an adult, the employee must take reasonable steps to stop the conduct and report the observations to a campus administrator. A student who has visible injuries or expresses pain or discomfort should be referred to the school nurse. A reporting employee may be asked to provide a written statement of the information, of the observations or the events that led to the report. A counselor or administrator who receives a report that a student may be the victim of abuse or neglect must immediately notify the campus principal. For information on your reporting obligations, you may access District Board Policy FFG Exhibit. Reducing a child's risk of abuse or neglect begins at home, with a strong family base and a stable household. However, the school district and employees also play a large role in reducing the risk. All of us are expected to help in the enforcement of campus visitor policies by ensuring that any unauthorized visitors are escorted to the campus office. We are also expected to engage in the supervision of students at all times, even when we are not on assigned duty. It's critical that students receive education in life skills, socialization skills, problem-solving skills, appropriate physical boundaries, and personal hygiene. School counselors are available for students who are at risk for abuse or neglect, or who exhibit warning signs and may need to discuss their feelings and coping techniques. Each of us are to be aware of the resources offered by the school and the community. Community organizations that serve as resources on this topic are detailed in the link below the video. Thank Thank you for participating in today's training. These organizations provided content for this presentation.